We're hunting twig bundles. This is a Labrador tree, or Labrador tea. You see it growing like this, and it's got a orange fuzz on the bottom, and it smells a lot like jasmine. And you can make a tea from this, and the recipe is 1 handful per person. So if you remember from my twig bundle video, I was pointing out the lower branches of an evergreen, and that's what the twig bundle was actually designed from, was these lower branches. And I kind of have done that, but just not with the same species that they are using. But this is what you're looking for. So we've harvested the sticks, and now what we're doing is we're peeling them here. And you can see some of this stuff. I'm actually glad I came, because there's no way I'd be able to demonstrate all of this back in Iowa. We just don't have the materials. And if I found this many trees of this species, I'd literally cut down every single one in the whole state to be able to do this. So good to come. Little quick knife report. The knife is doing great so far. Peeling these and cutting these down and such. So hopefully at the end of this I'll be able to do a little bit better appraisal of how I did with my design. This is a trapper's lantern. It's just a big tomato can, I guess it's a number 10 can that's got a hole in the side and then a candle hanging down. And he's got a little baling wire handle on the top, and it's actually throwing light in beams. Really kind of neat. Have a little bit of snow this morning with our coffee. I'm working on my snowshoe here. So here's where I am on my Roycroft snowshoes. I've tied the tips of the 5 branches, and these are pinky diameter at the top there. I've tied the tips of those together with a real tight constrictor knot. And then if you go down to the bottom there, now again these are just a little bit taller than head high, and if you look at the bottom, you carve a notch around each of these sticks so that your rope will sit in there. And then you start here and do 3 overhand knots there, loop around 3 there, loop around 3 there, loop around 3 there, and then tie it off with a real good square knot. So this little piece of lath is hand wide from tip of thumb to tip of pinky, and each of these little spots I've taken and tied a jam knot, and I'll probably have to put up a video of how to do that. But before you get it all the way tightened down, so what you do is after you have your jam knot almost tightened, you tuck the standing end under, like so, and you leave this loop like this, and then you finish tightening up until like you'd tighten a jam knot, like so. A little bit more. Get it good and tight, and make sure it's in the grooves before you fully do it. And then to brace this off, you take the standing end and put it through this loop that you've got here, and then that will lock off your jam knot so that it stays nice and tight for you. And the other thing about this is that these are on the knots are on the undersurface. This will be the top surface. And here's a mistake. For the first few of these, I wasn't paying attention to where I was putting the rope, and it came out of the notches. So don't do that. You want it in the notches, but it won't be a fatal flaw, just style points. And then so if this is your snowshoe, this is where the ball of my foot will go. And actually the first thing I did was figure out where the center of gravity was, and then find 2 finger breadths in front of the center of gravity, and that's where the center of the board for the back of my heel will go. And so I'll just do the same process, carve some notches in here, and then lash this in, and then I'll have my snowshoe mostly done. Here's the coarsest version of the Swedish or Finnish fire torch. This one was done with a chainsaw, and started with the stuff from the chainsaw, the little bits. You see they went a little ways down there, not all the way down the log. It was a little lunch. That's a fricassee of tree rat. So my snowshoe is done here. This is getting bent up. If I was smart, I would have finished skinning these, because they'll dry and harden quicker if they're skinned. But this is a clove hitch here. Then you come back down and around the bar and then back, and then tied a loop here called a slippery 8, and then used a cinch, and then tied a this right here to lock it in place as a slippery half hitch. So there's a loop there, slippery half hitch, and then you just keep pulling, bend this up slowly. The important thing when you're bending it is to not bend it all at once, otherwise it'll crack. And if I'd peeled these before I bent them, this would be done and dried in a few hours, but as it is, I can leave that there for a couple days, and by then it'll hold its shape. So that's a Roycroft snowshoe.